I'm glad to be on the team. I'm excited. We got a few more minutes here. We are live on Facebook. So I tell you what, make sure that you say the right things, because you don't want your husbands or wives to be mad at you saying the wrong things. Because when you stand before a judge, you got to be cautious what you say. It could be used against you.
Ooh, boy.
Really?
Don't we know that? Ooh.
Travis, welcome aboard. I'm gonna unmute you guys for the moment so you guys can talk to Mr. Norris. We got a few minutes. Alfred, you can unmute yourself right now. Well, let's not all speak at once.
Hello, everybody.
Dr. Norris Shelton, hey, thank you so much. I received my COVID-19 book. I'm excited to get started with it. And I just thank you for everything that you're doing. Everybody in ASI, everybody that's tuned in, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are doing some wonderful things around the country, nationwide. So please make sure you reach out and join us at slaves-usa.com. And if you don't got Dr. Norris Shelton's book, make sure you add that / behind it and put books on it. And then go and pick up your book today. We're making history, and we would like for you all to continue on this journey with us and be a part of it. Once again, Dr. Norris Shelton, I just want to thank you for your mentorship and everyone for being with us today on this press conference that we will be launching to the masses. And just stay tuned, because descendants of American slaves, we will continue pushing forward for action and freedom and economic emancipation of our people. Thank you, Dr. Norris Shelton and Dr. Hickenbottom. Thank you. First Lady of Reparations, hello to you this afternoon.
That's
my man, Brother Travis.
Yeah, he's a firecracker.
Yeah.
He's a live wire. We love him.
Great.
Love it.
How you doing, Mr. Moreshi? Hello.
See, I'm doing great. My computer is all back in the back, so I don't have video on, but you are looking
okay.
great. You wouldn't want to
Howdy,
see me
Al.
anyway today.
Howdy, Al. How you doing?
Hello, how you doing, Doctor?
I'm doing good.
Mr. Norris, you're speechless right now. This is a first.
You did what?
I said you're speechless. Looks like you got a little bug on you. Never mind. Never mind. I mean, the bugs love him.
I know it. No, actually speaking, this is a very emotional time in my life. I never expected to live to see this happen. As Mr. Marishi can tell you, we've been through a lot in the past 20 years. He's been here all the time, and I appreciate you, Al. But I never thought I'd live to see American slaves coming together to benefit their people. This is history making, and it will be talked about for thousands of years.
What do you think they're going to say, Mr. Norris?
And they're going to say, what was them boys drinking? No, they will have to tell the truth that God sent us here to straighten this mess out. They will just have to tell the truth. What else to say? Because this is so much bigger than any one of us. And it's just a wonder. I'm so appreciative that I was chosen to be one of them. It gives me a feeling that I can't explain it even. Because when I seen the condition of our people and realized that no one on the planet understood what was going on, I realized that if I didn't make a move, our people could be lost forever. And I wanna say thank you to all the people who stood by me and helped the American slave movement to get this far. And I wanna especially thank you, Kathleen Parks, and the leadership team for stepping up to the plate. I really do. I don't know whether you all fully understand what you've gotten yourselves into. As Dr. Higginbotham often said, I tricked him into it. No. But actually speaking, at the end of the day, you guys are responsible for the American slave culture. That's a heck of a responsibility, because if the American slave culture fails, the world is going to look at us. And that's why I want the world to know that we're going to succeed and we're going to have fun doing it. The American slave culture is coming awake. So let's enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what it feels like to climb on board a vehicle and push back off the gate and jump into the heavens, and just once you get up to cruise altitude at 600 miles an hour and just sit back and enjoy the ride. You often rolling. And I see it that way here too. Joyce Coleman. Hey, how are you, Joyce?
I am delighted, just delighted to be here, and I'm fine, sir. How is everybody there?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Hey, how are you?
Everyone's doing good. We're excited about today's press conference. And hey, it's all good.
What time do we have? Let's see.
I've got three after 11, or 3 after 2 you guys time.
You have 3 after 3. No, 3 after 11, and I have close to 2 after 2. We'll start in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Let some more people check in. We are live on social media, Zoom and Facebook, streaming live. People are checking in, so we want to give them a few more moments to check in.
Set up some pretty great stuff, lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Hey, this thing wouldn't happen without the sisters. You guys, I got to give you your proper. We wouldn't be nothing without you guys. It takes teamwork really to make the dream work, and as soon as we really understand that we need each other, every one of us have a different responsibility, and we look at each other's strength and use it to the glory and help to make the team move forward for the cause. That's why we're here today, because of everyone here. But we wouldn't want to do this without the women. You guys are awesome. First Lady of Reparation, as the kids say, you are the bomb.
And likewise, you are the bomb also, Prime Minister. It's such a pleasure and honor to work with you. It really is. And it's really cool that we are setting the tone for the next 1,000 years. And I just think it's cool that people are going to be talking about us 1,000 years from now. This is just great. It's great. Brother Walker just checked in.
Excellent.
Who is TEFFU?
All right.
Someone is TEFFU. Who is that? Oh, well, they want to be incognito. That's fine.
She's Tika
Oh,
Freeman Parks.
I know who it is.
Thanks,
I know
Tika.
who it
We see
is.
you.
It's my daughter-in-law from Atlanta, Georgia. I done called her out.
Hi, Catherine Henderson.
Welcome, Atlanta.
Good afternoon,
Oh,
everyone. It's good
gosh.
to be
Good afternoon. How are
here.
We're going to start in a couple of minutes.
you? Okay.
Okay.
James Walker,
Want
how
to
you
say
doing?
hi
Welcome aboard.
Want to say hi to Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Famer, Gracie Lewis. Raise your hand, Gracie. You got on. Yay.
Hi, Gracie.
What time do we have?
Gracie.
2:05?
Let me see.
How you doing today, Gracie Lewis?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Blessed and glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right. We have 1 minute. We'll get
Will
started.
McKinnis. All right. How you doing, Will McKinnis?
Doing good. How are you doing, Dr. G?
Excellent, excellent. Excited for today. We're making history.
Yes, sir.
And they're coming in slowly but surely.
That's why I was saying we need to wait a few moments, let folks get in. Isn't this
Let me tell
fun?
you something. It's fun. I'm gonna be quiet.
Hey, Doc. Hey, Doc, me too. I'm gonna zip it.
Oh, gosh. We just had Sister Shanika Carter from Colorado, Denver, Colorado, just checked in also. I'm gonna say a few words about her group in a moment. Hi, Shanika. She said, hello, everybody.
Oh yeah, we see them in the chat.
Great. One more minute, we'll get started.
Shanika says she's working out some difficulties.
Technical difficulties, it happens. It happens.
Jane Walker, how you doing today?
I don't think he heard you, he's muted.
I'm good. I'm good. Travis, how are
Good to see
you?
today?
I'm good, sir. Nice to see you. Mr. New Information Age. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, man, it's good to see you, man. Good to see you. I love seeing beautiful Black people, man. I love seeing descendants of American slaves all across this country doing some wonderful things. And man, our skills that we have, we'll be able to use this to bring it to the new information age. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to enjoy this ride all the way until the weather plays.
I know that's right.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the American Slave Inc. in partnership with the National Action Network, Top News Radio Show, the ASI, American Slave Inc. National Executive Council. We have representatives from all over the country, as far away as Long Beach, California, Texas, Georgia, where else? All over. Louisville, Kentucky, of course. All over the country.
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. So we're all over
Ohio's
the
in the
place.
house.
Great, great, great. So we want to welcome everyone for chiming in with us today. Also, as far as Denver, Colorado, Miss Shanika Carter is the event organizer for the 1,000-mile caravan coming in this Friday for a press conference in front of Metro Hall at 2 p.m. So we want to be very supportive of their caravan coming in to support justice for Breonna Taylor. And also we have Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Famer and also Executive Secretary of the National Action Network, also a board member of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Raise your hand up, Gracie Lewis. Raise your hand, Gracie. All right, great. So it's great to see everyone here with us today for the official launching of Dr. Norris Shelton. Raise your hand, Dr. Norris. That's Dr. Norris Shelton, who is the father and the founder of the American Slave Cultural Movement and also the president of American Slave Inc. So this is a wonderful occasion. We invited the media. They're probably watching us now. And so we're streaming live here on Zoom, on Facebook. And so at this particular time, I'm going to introduce our Prime Minister and Chairman of the National Executive Council of American Slave Inc., Prime Minister Dr. Gerald Higginbotham. Take it away, Dr. Higginbotham.
Thank you, First Lady. I want to say welcome and thank you to, and a special shout out to the press and the local news media in Louisville, Kentucky, and to the ASI and the National Executive Council, and to everyone in attendance. This week has been a historical week. We've lost a couple icons, powerful icons, Honorable John Lewis and my dear friend and mentor for 35 years, Dr. Cordy C.T. Vivian. Those two powerful icons have left the battlefield and have gone home to be with our ancestors. So what I like to do is just take about 30 seconds just to honor them for the work that they have done, and then we'll proceed with this here. Thank you for just taking time out to honor those special ones. I'm excited today because America's at a turning point in its history. This country here, back in 1968 here, was having riots out in the streets. The same thing that was going on back then is still happening today. I'm reminded of my distant relative that got called to the White House the night Dr. King was assassinated the very next day. President Lyndon Johnson asked him to come. He was a former judge. He's no longer on the planet. He's gone home. But he came there at his request to talk about what was the significance of Dr. King's death. And there was just a lot of people there that was invited. The vice president, I think it was, I can't think of his name right now, but he was there with Lyndon Johnson, and some of the Supreme Court judges was there, and he just was trying to come up with some ideas. President Johnson says, "Where do we go from here?" And as my distant relative sat there, he thought about the things that we have gone through in the past that has been dealing with the American slave culture, and we have not progressed. And what I'm excited about today is that we now have the answer. Dr. Norris Shelton got called to the White House under Jimmy Carter's. He wanted to speak with him, but he was not ready then. But since he came back home and began to look at the things going on in our communities, and he's written 17 books. And his latest book, COVID-19, Windfall American Slaves Birthright. Dr. Shelton, you're now ready to go back to the White House, because this book that you have put together, the information in it is the key now, the final piece that will help the American slave culture reach its where it needs to get to. And I'm so honored to be on the team here. You are a living legend, power icon, just like C.T. Vivian and John Lewis. You have been working in the field, in the area, the discipline where God asked you to work. And so I want to just exalt you and honor you right now, lift you up for being an awesome leader, to have stayed the course to bring us to where we are right now. And so I want to introduce you to the folks. Dr. Norris Shelton, it is your turn and your time to speak. We yield the floor to you, sir.
I certainly thank you, Dr. Higginbotham. I thank you for this opportunity. And it is time for me to speak. As you know, I don't particularly care for speaking, but it is time for me to speak. You see, America has a racial problem that stems from slavery. I wrote COVID-19 Windfall because the information is desperately needed at this phase of the American slave history. It seems that not one leader, black or white, realized there's a cultural movement going on in America. And it is not the Black Lives Matter movement. It is the American slave movement. The killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and other killings and riots across America are nothing more than the after effects of slavery in America exploding out of control. During Dr. King's leadership, he was leading the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was an arm of the American slave movement. Most people, because of the cover-up of slavery, won't understand that, so I will explain. The American slave movement started in 1865 when American slaves were released from slavery. It gained notice in 1955 when Dr. Martin Luther King told American slaves who were misidentified as Negroes to head to the economic battlefield. When Dr. King gave those directions April 4th, 1968, he was immediately assassinated. America doesn't really want us to know about the economic battlefield. When they gunned down Dr. King, the American slave movement came to a halt. It stayed on hold until 1983 when I became Minority Entrepreneur of the Year in Manufacturing. That is when I understood my true identity and realized American slaves were going in the wrong directions, because our true leader had realized we were going in the wrong direction. When Dr. King was gunned down, the American slave movement came to an abrupt halt. We didn't even realize it, but the American slave movement stopped. Negro leaders didn't understand how to continue following Dr. King. That's why in 2001, I took over the leadership of the American slave movement and incorporated American Slaves, Inc. in Kentucky. And I started it moving toward the economic battlefield. Now, I explained all this to Obama, President Trump. I even sent information to every governor in America. Unfortunately, politicians don't understand slavery. If they read the book, they obviously didn't understand the information. Political leaders are fearful of dealing with the truth of slavery because they don't understand the after effects of human bondage. I wrote COVID-19 Windfall so leaders would understand what they are currently dealing with. COVID-19 Windfall gives leaders directions how to deal with America's current situation effectively and perpetually. The American slave movement is stalled right here in Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown. After listening to Donald Trump, who is Louisville's national leader, Mayor Greg Fisher, who is Louisville's local leader, and Reverend Kevin Cosby of St. Stephen's Church, who is Louisville's most notable Black leader, I realized none of these guys have a clue what is really going on in America on the racial front. They don't have a clue. They are all submerged in ignorance, and I'm trying to correct that defect. That is my mission on earth, to try to correct the ignorance defect and the ignorance virus that is destroying the American slave culture. American slaves' problem is inadequate leadership. Just go on and tell the truth. It's inadequate leadership. To start correcting this problem, I appointed Dr. Gerald Higginbotham to Prime Minister of the American Slave Nation. I then appointed Kentucky Jefferson County Commissioner Kathleen Parks to First Lady of Reparation for Slavery. Now, from these two appointments sprang American slaves' first leadership team in the history of America. That's powerful. American slaves now have identifiable leadership, and I'm going to explain that. In order for our people to move forward, our leadership has to be identified as leaders of American slaves. They can't be identified as African-American leaders, Black leaders, and all that nonsense. We've got to get over the shame of slavery. And now we have viable leadership to lead us. The team first consisted of 7 leaders from around America, and they were appropriately named the Magnificent Seven. Catchy. It has now grown to 12 hand-picked national leaders. I will therefore make a recommendation that the leadership team's name be changed to the Magnificent 12. I hope that meets with you all's approval. If not, these things can always be discussed because history is being made. And this time around, we want history to be made right. We want it to be spelled out right. And we are not going to allow anybody to misconstrue our history again. That's what's got us messed up. When all is said and done now, I wrote COVID-19 Windfall so today's leaders would understand what is going on in America and have written intelligence how to correct the wrong. Now, I want America to understand what's going on here. This is a new day. This is a new day. History is being made, and I encourage all leaders in America to pay attention. We must get over our pettiness and pay attention to what's going on at American Slaves, Inc., and pay attention to what Dr. Higginbotham and First Lady Parks are telling us, and we must follow their lead because they are following America's little black book, which is our gift from God. And I thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Norris. Beautiful words. We hear you. COVID-19, the book really brought it home for me that we have to follow the plan. Because when you have a when you have a plan of action, you'll get to your destination. To elevate our people from the suppression that we have been locked into for the last 400 years, and how the American slave nation will be that nation that lifts its people up off of the bottom. What we can do right now, for those that have questions, and Kathleen Park, I'm bringing you back in, that you can monitor that process, that you can facilitate that process. Just unmute your mic. And for those that have questions, if you just raise your hand, we've got a living legend here. And while he's here, those that have questions, you need to answer. You need to ask him so you can get them answered. So if you there's a way that you can raise your hand on the and I'll see it, and then I'll unmute you. And I'm gonna say this to all of you: let's not all speak at once.
All right, again, I want to thank everyone for participating in this online Zoom, streaming live, Facebook press conference. It's very powerful. And for those of you who are meeting Dr. Norris Shelton for the first time, I'm sure you would agree it's a wonderful opportunity. I've learned a lot from him with his mentorship over the past year and a half. And it's just an honor and a privilege to be a participant in this historical moment, in historical time in history, with the development, as Dr. Norris alluded to earlier, the development and the creation of this national executive team, coordinated and formed and developed by Dr. Gerald Higginbotham, our Prime Minister. I'm so thankful for him and for his leadership and this team's leadership. And this movement is growing. I saw Chaplain Cole Hahn. There he is. Chaplain Cole, wave, there you go. Out of Atlanta and New York. And doing a wonderful job in civil rights and human rights activism. So this is our moment and this is our time to strike the iron while it's hot and to strike a new understanding of who we are in America. So at this particular time, and also I want to point out that we do have a GoFundMe account. All you have to do is go to Google and type in GoFundMe for the Louisville, Kentucky American Slave Inc. Business Incubator. Dr. Norris, hold up the Renaissance plan, if you would. Hold up the Renaissance plan. You holding up COVID-19. But the blue book also.
Which one you want?
The blue book. There we go. There you go, Dr. Higginbotham.
Hey, give me some help here.
There you go. If you do not have these two books, if you purchase COVID-19 Windfall, and it is a smoker, you may have read PhD in the Ghetto. You may have read America's First Black Book. You may have read 400 Years of Slavery, America's Offspring Culture. He's written 17 books, as you can see in his office. So his fathership and founding of this movement, there's no question about it, because he has a body of work. No one else has that. A lot of people are out there talking and spouting off about this movement and that movement, but this is the real movement. And so at this time, we're going to open up for questions regarding COVID-19 Windfall or questions that you may have for Dr. Norris in general. If you have questions, if you could raise your hand now to be recognized by Prime Minister Gerald, he will recognize you. Please ask your questions. I'll start off. Why are we not African American? That's a good question to start off with. Why are we not African Americans, Dr. Norris?
Well, that's a good question. The African American is legal terminology. It's not a culture of people, unless you consider culture at a lesser level. African American is legal terminology used by the Immigration Services Department to certify immigrants from Africa, real Africans who come into America, black and white. There are more white African Americans in America than there are black African Americans. Believe that, because most black African Americans can't really afford to come to America in the first place. We took that name after Dr. King got killed for a couple of reasons: fear and shame. Black leaders were fearful of getting gunned down if they kept on Dr. King's path. And the average Negro was ashamed to be an American slave. So when someone stepped up and said African America, to the best of my knowledge, it was Jesse Jackson, one of those guys. You know, I knew a lot of them back then in them days. They are seeking our true identity. And since we have dark skin and tight hair, most of us, they chose African American. But we are not African Americans. We are the farthest thing from African Americans. Sure, some of the seeds that started our culture came from Africa. But I can guarantee, told you, most of the seeds that started our culture came from the white slave master. Whether by way of his slaves or whether by way of his own infidelity. The American slave culture contains the seeds of many nations. In fact, we've got it all. But our roots are planted in America. And that's why we are not African Americans. America is our mother country.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. I saw Vicky Latif Wayne. She raised her hand. If you're unmuted, you can ask your question.
Well, Kathleen can you all hear me?
Yes.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can be heard.
Well, Kathleen kind of asked my question, but at the same time, this for me, Mr. Sheldon, it throws a little confusion because, you know, if we don't consider ourselves Afro-American, then in my mind, it eliminates our heritage as our basic heritage, which comes from Africa. Now, I agree that for the most part, we were all born, for the most part, after we were stolen from Africa and brought here. All those that were stolen and started having children by whomever, these white, you know, enslavers and things of that nature, then yes, you know, we are, but, you know, we have, because we are inhabitants of this country over here by birth, for the most part. But I hope you do realize when you study history that there were Africans already here in America centuries before Christopher Columbus and even slavery, and before these people that we look at as Native Americans. We were already here trading back and forth with Malians and things of that, people from other, from the motherland. So this is why I'm a little cautious about not using that word Afro-American. And the other thing is that if we don't consider ourselves a part of our heritage, then what do we call ourselves? Just Americans? Is that what you're saying?
I
Go
can
ahead,
answer
Kathy,
that.
please. Somebody.
I can
Okay.
certainly answer that, and I will enjoy answering it. But
Sure.
I don't want to hog the
Please.
show because I don't want to hog the show.
No, no, this is for you, Mr. Norris,
But
to
I'm
answer the question.
directing this question at you, Mr. Shelton. I'm directing the question at you because these are your books. These are coming out of your mind, and you are the person that needs to explain that to me. Please.
All right, I'll be glad to explain it. I've explained it 1,000 times. I explained it thoroughly.
Well, this is my first time on here.
Let me explain it. I
So
know.
I apologize. Yeah.
I'm trying to address that.
Sure.
Thank you, Vicki. He'll address it. Thank you for your question. Go ahead, Mr. Norris.
Yeah. That's why I wrote America's Little Black Book, is because I knew that our people didn't understand our true heritage. All cultures originated in Africa. So all cultures can claim African Americans because all cultures originated in Africa. What most people are missing is one thing. Those African seeds were planted in America. And from those seeds came American slaves. The Africans that were already here, they didn't come from those seeds. The seeds that started our culture may well have come from America, but they were planted in American soil. The harvest were slaves, American slaves. We are a new people because during slavery, or during the incubation period of our culture, we were given a new mindset. We weren't allowed to read and write. And most people don't understand what that means. When you're not allowed to learn, ignorance is being bred into you. Now, all of this is explained in America's Little Black Book, how our people came about, because we are a new people, and we must fully understand that. We came from America. The seeds came from all over the world, probably. Everybody who could, own a slave had some slave seeds. But the seeds were planted in America. The harvest was slaves, and that's what we are, American slaves. Ms. Sparks, did you have something you want to say on that? The reason I'm saying some of the other people, I like to know what other people learn from reading the books I wrote, because I wrote the books so I wouldn't have to explain it in words, because when you're talking in words, a lot of things get lost. That is why I wrote the books. Now, we must read these books if we really are interested in this and want to understand who we are and what to do about our deplorable situation. We must read these books so we can gain the knowledge.
Can I jump in there, Dr. Norris?
Yeah.
And see what most people miss. America bred slaves in the 7 southern states. It was a business. They didn't breed African slaves. They bred American slaves. It just like I live here in California. If I had a California orange and I took it, I just moved back here from Missouri, and I put that, if I brought a Missouri orange here to California and I took those seeds out and put it in my ground outside of my home here, and a tree came up, that would no longer be a Missouri tree. It would be a California seed because it was bred in California ground. Now, America bred slaves here. It was a business. She created a culture. It's her firstborn. She's had no other child but the slaves. And she really has been a deadbeat parent to her firstborn and to her descendants. Now, this is so important. Many of you ladies, I'm sure some of you have been married and have some children. You've had a firstborn. That firstborn you would take care of. Raise your hand if you have children. That your firstborn you love. You gonna take care of, you gonna fight for that firstborn. America didn't do that. Because see, in the business arena, they didn't look at it like that. They saw it strictly as a business. We needed slaves to build up America. But it doesn't take away that we are America's firstborn descendants, and we have birthrights to the United States. And that's what we have to understand. We want our birthrights. I don't have birthrights to Africa. I wasn't born in Africa. I was born in Southern California, but my daddy came from Chicago and Lafayette, Louisiana. So I have birthrights here in California because I was born here, but I am a descendant of American slaves because my ancestors was birthed through the American slavery business enterprise system. Slavery was a business. And so we have birthrights, family, and you have to get that piece. And what they have been doing here in this country, they wanted us to remain ignorant so that we'd remain slaves to a federal system forever. Because they tax me every month. I pay $3,000 to $4,000 a month of taxes go to the federal government, and I get nothing from those tax dollars. I'm American slave. Amen. I know we haven't looked at it like that, but we're gonna have to unlearn some things and then relearn to really understand what's been going on. But we are Americans, at least I am. I'm a descendant of American slaves that was bred here in this country to help build up this great nation that we're living in. Oh, I see Aaron's hand. I'm on First Lady, I'm on mute you. I got emotional, family, when I talk about this because I'm in the know and I can't be played no more. You played me with Black, Negro, colored, and African American. I began to ask the question, which one is it and why so many name changes? And then I got to studying and I saw that these people have been playing us. That day is over. All right. Yes, First Lady, you got your hand up.
I just wanted to respond to my sister, Vicky Latif Juan. It's an excellent question.
It was a wonderful question.
It's probably the quintessential question of the century. Because for 400 years, I mean, it shook me at the core when I first started reading Dr. Norris Shelton's books, because I've been teaching Introduction to Civil Rights at Bellarmine for about 4 or 5 years. So I had to come back to a certain degree, to a large degree, and redirect some of the knowledge that I acquired from other civil rights and human rights writers over the past 50, 60 years, and the way that I was taught in the public school system, the public domain. It wasn't until I was an adult that I found out that my great-great-great-grandfather was a slave and fought in the colored infantry. And the way that he was able to purchase a house was through the generosity and support of a white female. Don't ask me her name because I'm researching that. My son and I are going to be researching that. That's on my father's side. And on my mother's side, my grandfather was Irish. So I knew just from that I was a direct descendant of American slaves. Now, I've been to the continent of Africa twice. And of course, Africa is the cradle of civilization and always will be. That's the motherland. However, when you get into the conversation, which is very political and very difficult to grasp, because we have been so misguided and so miseducated and so mistreated by this racist, systemic world that we live in that it's hard to wake up one day and say, I'm not African American. But check this out. We are not immigrants. We did not come here by choice. We were brought here. Our ancestors were brought here on slave ships. And I even asked Dr. Norris that question. I said, well, Dr. Norris, what happened? He said, well, we were separated at sea, like a mother being separated from her child. We were cut off. And then America began to, and these are the shame and the history that we don't want to talk about. Our great grandmothers were raped, sodomized, the men too, and they began the breeding process. Some of the slave masters, and it's referred to in COVID-19, took pleasure in breeding us. But for the majority, it was a business. It was a labor force. And when they freed us improperly. And they certainly were careful not to include it in the Constitution of the United States. So when we talk about police brutality and Black Lives Matter and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and all of these individuals, Tamir Rice, all of these individuals, Trayvon Martin, who were killed either by white racists or by the white racist political system. That's just a symptom of the overall problem. Because we have never been correctly identified as human beings in this nation or even in this world. And so we've got to start right here to correct the wrong that has been done to us as a people. And once we get past that, the shame of being a slave, one thing I like about the Jewish people, they're not ashamed of the Holocaust. They talk about it every day. I have friends that are Jewish, and I don't mean that jokingly. I mean, I have real friends of Jewish faith, and they will tell you very clearly about the Holocaust. Never again, because they want to learn the lesson. And so the best way to really understand what Dr. Norris, what his thesis is to read this book, COVID-19, Windfall American Slaves Birthright. There are many books. He has 17 of them. America's Little Black Book. I'm going to be teaching American slave history for the first time. It's never been taught. Nobody else has a doctorate in American slave history but this man. So he's really the only one that's qualified to really discuss it in an academic or historical fashion. I yield the floor, Prime Minister, for more questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, I saw Aaron, you got your hand up.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Great to see you, Dr. Shelton. Always a pleasure. Our founding father. My name is Aaron Maxey. I am a member of the American Slave Inc. and also a member of the National Executive Council. I am humbled and privileged to be a part of this celebration today and press conference. Blessings to everyone that's on the line, and especially you, First Lady Kathleen Parks, and also Dr. Gerald Higginbotham. And on that note, Chairman, this question is for you. What race are we?
Aaron, that's a great question. We're Americans. We're the American race.
Human race.
We're the human race, that too. But our culture is, we are Americans. However, we are descendants of slaves. And it's so important that that piece is so powerful when you really understand what it really means, that you own America.
Thank you.
And they have for years purposely didn't want us to understand that. They have never put the two words together, American slave. You either see, they say black, Negro, because the moment if they've done that, then they'd have to acknowledge the birthrights to this country here, to our group. And this whole country has been about economics. And so they had to get rid of the word slavery because it was illegal when they passed the law that slavery was no longer legal. They burned all the records and then they started talking about how bad it was. Don't you ever talk about it? And they bred more ignorance into the slave culture.
That's right.
But see, now once you're in the know, you done gone and weeded through all that and why they did it. And you understand that, no, I'm American. I'm a descendant of American slaves. My ancestors built this country. We have firstborn rights.
Amen.
All the oil, everything in this country belongs to the American slave culture. Slavery was a business. It created many millionaires. It was the economic engine to the American society. And every business in the United States have been put on top of this slave culture. Every tax dollar belongs to the American slave culture. But because we had not organized and we have refused to accept our culture, people have been coming to America, the immigrants, and stealing our birthrights. But that day's over. We are flipping the script. It is our turn and it's our time. I'm gonna tell you that slave, just the name is worth $105 trillion. See, we're not poor. We're just broke because of our intellectual thinking. We've been thinking wrong. But when you have a paradigm shift in your thinking and you're looking at it from what it really is, every tax dollar belongs to our culture. Reparation is due only one culture in the United States of America, and that's the American slave culture.
That's right.
And so I yield the floor. I hope that answered your question, but we are the slave culture. We are Americans. We're the descendants of American slaves. And you know what? We're working very hard to get our culture properly recognized so it can be put in the economic pecking order so we can get what's due ours. This 2020 census, I want everybody on this line, on line 7, page 7, to write in American slaves. Billions of dollars will be coming back to our community if we do this. We've been thinking wrong, we've been speaking wrong, and we've been acting wrong. And we can't keep doing what we've been doing. We've been off course. And I know as a commercial airline captain, 1/10 of a degree off course, you're not gonna arrive at your destination. And we've been off for the last 400 years. And we are flipping the script. Yes, slave masters and slave breeders created individual slaves, bred them to be ignorant, but America birthed the American slave nation. She understands that, and we have to understand it too. I see Catherine, Vicky, you put your hand back up. I'm going to unmute you. I hope that answered your question, Aaron. I know it was a little long, but we're Americans. We are the descendants of American slaves. We're the American slave culture. Vicky?
Well, in actuality, Catherine Henderson had her hand up before I did. So you can go ahead on and take her.
Your hands was, Aaron was up, then your hands, then Catherine came after you. I'm keeping a record of it. I'm watching.
Okay. I just won't be fair.
No, don't worry about being fair. I got you. This is your captain. I get you. You're gonna be fair.
Okay, I got you. Okay, now listen. One of the things I want people to clearly understand is that I have been myself in this fight ever since high school. As a matter of fact, my school was the first, Loretta High School, was the first school to implement Black studies.
Do you have a question?
You know,
Do you have a question? We're taking questions now. What's your question for the group?
I'm saying
Mr.
this to
Norris?
clarify some things. I'm saying this to clarify some things. First of all, this is not new to me. I just needed to understand the economics behind what it is that you all are doing or saying. I still have a problem with not using Africa or acknowledging this. And the other thing is, our culture is European culture. That's what we know, you know. So that is, you know, I just wanted to make that statement. So
Well,
you
that's
can
great.
go on and
I'm
move
glad
to
you
the
made this
next person.
statement. But America bred slaves in this culture, in this country, and created a whole new culture, born here in North America. That's the thing that we have to get the revelation on. I want to say thank you for your question. I'm going to move to the next person. Thanks. Catherine.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm here at the behest of my brother Travis Johnson. So I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you all and just ask you a question today. I agree that we are unique and that we are a creation of America. When you speak of birthrights to America, can you explain more of what that means, what it looks like to you, and how we can claim that?
Mr. Norris, do you want to speak on that, and then I'll respond?
Sure, absolutely. I'll make it quick because I want to hear your response. I love it. Birthright. When I wrote COVID-19, Windfall American Slaves Birthright, what that simply means is this: we all come from a family. And we'll use President Donald Trump as an example. In President, his children have a birthright. They have a birthright. And it's share of that money. Well, America bred American slaves. That means we're children of America. We have a birthright. Immigrants are coming into our country claiming our birthright, even though we don't understand how that happens. You'll have to read the book to fully understand all of it. But immigrants are coming in, they get stipends, they own businesses, and they advance economically at a huge pace. American slaves, we're just in the welfare lines, I guess you'd say, when our birthright should be a share, the lion's share of America, because we're the only child. America belongs to us. We should inherit America, not immigrants coming into our country. Back to you, Dr. Higginbotham.
And the way that, and to expound on that, how we see acquiring the birthrights. For example, the oil in this country, it belongs to the descendants of American slave. Everything in this country belongs to this first culture. See, our group here, yes, the seed came here from Africa, but when they started eating them here, slavery was a business. It created a new culture. And that culture has been locked into the lowest level of a real life monopoly game because nobody want to talk about it. They don't put the word American slave together. Lincoln didn't do it. I studied history now. They'll call them slaves or black or Negro, but they've never called them American slaves. And the way we're going to get our birthright, the first thing we got to do is we're the ones who have to accept our identity. Nobody's going to accept that for us. But the moment you accept it, it puts you in a whole nother level. And I'm gonna throw this out at the team. One thing that I did, and it's now 2 years, I went and owned the name slave. I got it trademarked. Not trademark, I got it copyrighted. You can't trademark it, but you can copyright it. So I have it copyrighted. And so now, what I've done, I've changed the narrative. The word slaves means saved, sanctified, set apart, special, sons, daughters of the Most High God. The letter L means leaders, learners, lover. A means awesome, anointed, appointed, achiever. V means vibrant, vivacious, victorious. E means excellent, excel, achievers, endures, excellent. I've changed the name. Those qualities represent our culture. So when we begin to look at it from a different paradigm, you see it differently, then you can move forward. We are going to get what's rightfully ours. Everything in America belongs to our culture. And now that we have come together and we have organized, we're going to move our people from poverty, ignorance, dependency, and complacency to knowledge, wealth, and power. If one man, Willie Lynch, could do what he did and created this foolishness another man, and I thank God for you, Mr. Norris, for what you put in those books, can take us to a whole nother level and direction. And that's what we're doing right now. We are organizing around those books, America's Little Black Book. And you've got to get COVID-19 because there's just been a major wealth transformation here in America. You notice the money now is all going to the tax dollar. Our tax dollars are being given to Amazon owner. Look at what's happening in the world. We're getting stuck on the little individual things killing here, but they've always killed the American slave culture. But they're switching, creating new wealth that's going to other people in their pocketbooks and companies, and it's not coming to us. They've created a man-made program to take people out, COVID-19, just like they created slavery. They create these programs so that the wealth can be switched from one group to another group. Family, we got to wake up and look at it from a whole new different perspective because it's a new day and it's a new breeze blowing. And I see the hand of Will McKinnix. You've got the floor.
Again, thank you, Dr. Shelton. I look forward to getting your book. Question for you is, this is a political time right now. Everyone's talking about the election and things like that. And I would love to hear your points about a lot of people take advantage, the Democratic Party takes advantage of our votes. And I would love to hear your opinion about the political process and maybe what do we need to change our political process to in order so that our voices are heard in political platform.
Let me ask you a question. I know you haven't read COVID-19 because I got mixed up. But anyway, to show you the value of COVID-19, I'm going to let you ask Dr. Higginbotham a question because he read the book.
Political party, what has happened, and I thank you once again for this book. This has really helped me. The Democrats take us for granted. The Republicans just take us. The Democrats have stolen the American slave culture vote, and we get nothing in return. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. I'm running on the Descendants of American Slave political party agenda now. And people are going to have to, number one, if they want my vote, they're going to have to now talk to us because you're not going to be able to do us how you did us in the past. This whole thing is about economics to take from this group to give to this group. They can no longer just take our group voting for granted. No more. It's a new day and it's a new breeze blowing. But in this book here, thank you, Mr. Norris, for spelling out how the political process really works and how they take care of their own and we have not been taken care of. The American slave culture, we have to get our name out there now. Everybody has been waiting for us to step up to do this. Now is the time. I hope I answered your question, Will. Yeah, Ms. Norris, you got the floor.
Yeah, this book explains the political process, how it works. It's got Trump in there, Obama in there, and anybody else, because this is very, very important. The main thing this book explains in the political arena is that the descendants of American slaves have no idea how to vote. We don't know how to vote because if we did, we would know that voting as a block is the only way to get something done for you people.
That's it. I got that from the book too. We have to come together and learn to vote as a block. I'm gonna tell you something, we have something very powerful here that will change the course of America. That's why I pray that everyone get this book here and we have these Zoom meetings and we talk about it so we can begin to organize our communities where we are so we can become a political force here for good to help save our culture so we can leave a positive legacy to benefit the generations that's coming behind us. Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Now, Mr. Norris, we must have scared the folks But I'm telling you, son, I'm so excited because when you have knowledge is a potential to power. And then when you act on it, see, I can't go along with the old crap. I'm an African American. Those are immigrants. You know, I went down to, I had the opportunity to go to Washington to meet with the United States immigration official, and I had the same conversation with them. Immigrants are those that were born on the continent of Africa that come here legally by plane or boat and nationalize. You always put the country in front of America where you were born. I was born in South Central Los Angeles. I can't put that African. And y'all, if you got a US passport, go look at your passport. It's gonna say nationality, American on it. So we've been duped, hoodwinked by our old leaders. Another thing I'm gonna say, Black leaders can't do nothing for us. And here's why. They don't even know who they represent. We gotta address the identity piece right now, moving forward, to help our culture. We do that, and it doesn't take everybody, because, you know, it's been said, where there's just 2 or 3 gathered in his name, he's in the middle, and whatever that we touch and agree upon, it shall come to pass. And so we got enough of us that are moving forward, and we're out there making noise to put our name, American Slave, on the 2020 census. Our culture is going to be properly identified, so we can now get dollars coming to our community so we can teach, train, and heal our culture. That's why it's important that we launch the culture business incubators. We're going to teach our people about who we are. All those books that you got behind you, Mr. Norris, all those books are going to be taught at the Culture Business Incubator. And we're going to teach our people about business, not business. We're going to do culture business. We're going to get our companies put in place, and then we're going to take them out to Wall Street. Now, family, y'all know that anytime we get in the game, we take the game to a whole nother level.
Amen.
They purposely kept us ignorant so that we wouldn't get our birthright. But that day is over. We are flipping the script. Hey, are there any more questions? Captain, First Lady. First Lady Park, I see you. Hold on, let me get to you. I yield the floor to you, First Lady.
Say thank you. I just want to say a personal thank you and shout out to everyone that's in attendance at this press conference. And believe me, some of the same questions and same concerns that have been brought forth were on my mind initially as well, but that African American piece never quite set right with me. And as I had stated earlier, I have been to the continent twice and loved it. I've been to the slave castles. I mean, I taught over there for a brief period of time while I was there, and it was a fantastic and wonderful experience. And Africa will never be taken away from us. But that's not the point of this movement. The point of this movement is to take claim of our birthright, of our existence in America that was purposefully misidentified in the Constitution and still being misidentified with the use of nicknames and surnames like minority. And one of the things that bothers me when journalists speak about us, even they don't even know what to say. They'll say stuff like Black and brown communities, communities of color. Well, who are you talking about? Who are you referring to? Well, we're so accustomed of being misidentified. And I'm telling you, it is very confusing. And when we hear that word slave, many of us are still ashamed of that. I submit to you today, I totally embrace that name. I am an American slave. I am a descendant of American slaves, and I want my reparations, and I want my people to have our reparations. We don't need to wait another day, another minute, another second to continue in these debates. We need to move forward and stress upon our legislators, our leaders, that we demand that they pass policy in Washington, in Louisville, in Atlanta, in New York, in St. Louis, Texas, all over the United States of America. We want our reparations in all areas. The main area is economics, to create business incubators all over this country. And once we do that, and we can walk and chew gum at the same time, we want reparations in education. We want reparations in healthcare. We want reparations in urban development. We want our reparations now.
And
But we must be unified in order to get it. So again, I thank everybody for coming to this press conference today. Prime Minister, do you have some final words? Thank you. I yield the floor.
I do have final words. What you just said is we will no longer be a second-class citizen in the country in which we've been birthed in. We demand freedom because we have not been made free. We are second-class citizens in our own country. We were birthed here. That day is over. Now that we're in the know, we're going to train and develop leaders. I'm not ashamed of being a descendant of American slaves. I'm quite proud because my ancestors built this country. I'm wearing it. I have it on me. I refuse to be lied to ever again. We must walk in truth. You know, C.T. Vivian told me that. He said, do what you're doing because you are right on course. And he's done crossed back over. I'm stepping up to show our people this is what we got to do. This is where we're going. We're going to move our people from poverty, ignorance, dependency, and complacency to knowledge, wealth, and power. It is our turn, and it's our time. Aaron, I see your hand, and then this is going to be the last one. The session will be over. Aaron, you had your hand up. Go ahead. You've been unmuted.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. I'm humbled by getting kind of the last word there. Kathleen Parks, First Lady, you are on fire. I love that message. I love that passion. I love that drive. Thank you, my sister. I mean, this press conference has been wonderful. It's been enlightening. It's been enriching for my soul and for my spirit. And I just want to share with everybody just one thing that I've come to realize as we've fellowshipped over this meeting. You organize and create a nation to go into business with other nations. That's the whole reason why you create a nation, is to go into business. And the only economic power that the United States of America and the United States had was us, descendants of American slaves who created the commodity for them to leverage and do business as a nation. That's why we claim the birthrights. We were the commodity. We created the capital for the United States of America to do business as a nation. That's why it's important that when we identify ourselves on the US Census, that's how economics is spread. And they've never had us on the US Census, never. We've never been there. We've never been on the docket in the history of America. But yet when you create a nation, they distinguish their constituents of the nation, and they've identified their constituents way back in 1700s, and that was American slaves and Indians. It's in the contract. So if everyone would take the time to look at the United States of America as a business, and you do the history of the commodities or the things that they had to trade with back in that time, it all came from our ancestors' hands. It came from our effort. It came from our blood. It came from our intelligence. It came from our faith. It came from everything that our ancestors had to get this nation something that they could do business with as a nation. And we provided that. That's why we claim the birthright. Because without us, without our labor, United States America and the United States would not have been able to do business as a nation. They couldn't do it without us. So we hold true to that, and we appreciate everyone considering looking at our online information age YouTube content. We would like to say hello to all our YouTube subscribers and fans, and please go to our channel, like, share, and subscribe on Facebook as well as YouTube. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, this is Dr. Norris. If you don't have nothing else to say, this is going to conclude this session. Get the book.
Oh yeah, I got some. First Lady Parks is reminding me to hold up the book. And I want to say that I appreciate you and First Lady Parks for keeping me on my toes too. I say to all America, please pay attention right through here. All America, white, black, and immigrants. Please pay attention to what's going on in America right now and understand that most of what you see is a misconception. If you want to know the real truth, you need to get this book so you'll understand it. I yield the floor back and I say thank you very much.
And this is going to end up on New York's bestseller list.
It's going to.
Yes, it is.
I know that. I know it will, because it is the answer to America. And Donald Trump, the current president, need to get this book and read it. It'll take him to another level on how to solve the issue here in the United States. And whether he gets it or not, it doesn't matter, because we're now in place to bring about the change. We will be the change that we desire to see. I want to say thank you to everyone. You're still holding up that book. Peace and blessings. And we'll see you at the next meeting, Zoom meeting.
Thank you.